The Nationals Senate Leader Bridget McKenzie, thanks for your time, Senator McKenzie. Should your colleague Jacinta Price take on the role vacated by Julian Lesser for shadow Indigenous Australians?
Well, I think since Senator Jacinta Price has joined our team here in Canberra, she's made a powerful and strong contribution on behalf of Aboriginal Australians and the Northern Territory more generally, and I think she'd be an excellent choice. I think obviously a future ministry is in her future. She's an excellent advocate, but obviously that's ultimately a decision for the Leader of the Opposition. If
Mr Dutton does go along that path, that's basically he is all in on the No campaign, given Senator Price's central role in that.
Well, I think the Liberal Party has made their decision. Obviously, the National Party made our decision late last year that jointly the coalition will not be supporting the Yes campaign. We believe that we are all equal under law, that is still a principle of egalitarianism in this country that is worth upholding and worth fighting for. And whilst we all want to see reconciliation, putting the voice or the vibe to referendum and changing our founding document to make sure that some Australians are more equal than others isn't actually going to put us on the path to reconciliation long term.
Should all coalition frontbenchers be bound to campaign for the No vote?
Well, I think what people do in the quietness of the ballot box is up to them. I think you're going to find a lot of Labor voters, traditional Labor voters, will be voting No.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think you're right.
In terms of the shadow
ministry, I'm talking
ministry,
about in terms of campaigning, like we're discussing it today on camera. Should shadow ministers be bound to argue the case?
Well, the conventions of the Westminster system are that ministers and shadow ministers need to abide by the decisions of Cabinet or shadow Cabinet. That is the convention that builds trust and integrity into our broader system. And you saw Julian Lesser obviously resign as a result of his difference of opinion, and that is the appropriate and integrous thing to do. And I think that gives us all confidence, irrespective of which side of the substantive issue you sit on. So it's up to all of us. If we choose to sit in shadow Cabinet or the privilege of Cabinet, then we need to abide by the decisions of those bodies.
Simon Birmingham on the program yesterday, I asked him, will he campaign for the No vote? He said that's not his intention. Are you comfortable with that? Or do you agree with Senator?
Well, I've worked with Birmo for a very long time and he is a man of his word, and I'm sure that if he had a different view to shadow Cabinet, then he would make the appropriate decision.
Saying that it's not his intention to campaign for a No vote, though, is that consistent with what Peter Dutton said?
I think those that want to campaign for Yes will be going against both the Liberal and the National Party position. And obviously as shadow Cabinet ministers, that would be untenable under the conventions that we exist under. So Julian wants to campaign Yes,
sure, and
so he's made the appropriate decision. Now there'll be
if someone who doesn't, a frontbencher who doesn't necessarily actively campaign for No, well, they wouldn't necessarily be in breach of the Cabinet solidarity or shadow Cabinet solidarity.
Well, I think the shadow Cabinet has made the decision that the coalition, both the coalition parties, Liberal and National Party, are upholding a No position. The extent to which individuals go out there and campaign is obviously up to them. You've seen Senator Jacinta Price taking it up very strongly on the No campaign, and people will pursue the campaign the No campaign in different ways.
Well, she is a very forceful advocate.
Very powerful.
Do you think it's a no-brainer that Peter Dutton
I think irrespective of whether she becomes the Shadow Minister for Indigenous Affairs, Jacinta Price will continue to be a powerful, strong voice for the No campaign and for better outcomes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders more broadly across the country.
How does it work, though, just in terms of logistics of that? Because Lisa being a Liberal and then a National Party person to replace, there'd have to be a few positions shuffled around.
Well, again, I mean, that's a discussion between the two leaders. Usually within the coalition agreement, it's quite a matter of arithmetic how many ministerial or shadow ministerial roles the National Party and the Liberal Party have. So that's a discussion for the leaders.
It's a huge role, though, because we're talking about this year, it's the biggest issue, the voice.
Absolutely.
And
it will impact...
It's, other than Peter Dutton, it's probably the most high-profile position, I guess, David Littleproud, but this is a big one, isn't it?
Well, it is going to be. We're looking at changing our foundational document, and whether you arrived on these shores 40,000 years ago, during the gold rush or the Scottish clearances, or indeed in the wave of boat arrivals following the Vietnam War, all Australians have a stake in what the outcome of this referendum is going to be and how we're all going to be treated under law. I just noticed Linda Burney, the current Minister for Indigenous Affairs, being very strident in what she thought the voice would and wouldn't be able to do, which I find incredible given that they can't actually explain what it will do in any great detail. She's very clear that it won't be ruling on Australia Day. She actually can't make those claims because we don't know what the voice will be making, what advice the voice will make to executive government about when we should hold Australia Day.
The Liberals have said they support constitutional recognition. Do the Nationals?
We don't have a formal position on that. I do. I'm a constitutional conservative from way back, but through my work on the joint committees looking at the recognition piece over many, many years, I have determined that I also believe in reconciliation would be facilitated through recognising our first Australians in our founding document. However, I am adamantly opposed to the concept of the voice, as I believe it will actually separate us along race, and I don't think that's part of modern Australia, particularly as we're the multicultural nation that we are.
Even with the gap the way it is? It's nearly a decade in life expectancy and that sort of thing.
Well, I find this the great jinx, if you like, of the Labor Party, that because we all, well, I believe that we all want to see better outcomes for first Australians. We want that gap closed. It's why state and federal governments of all colours have thrown the book at this problem to little success, right? We have to own that. But will the voice actually change the fact that what we're hearing today from Alice Springs even today? I mean, we should be sending... If that was happening, you and I have spoken to this before, if what was happening in Alice Springs, Tennant Creek or any of those more remote communities in the NT, WA or Queensland, in a suburban street of white people in our capital cities, you'd have social workers on every corner, etc. It is an indictment, and Anthony Albanese
but I guess their argument
needs to get there.
Their argument is, though, that if you do the same thing over and over again, you don't change the outcome. So why not change the approach? So that's the basis of their argument.
Well, it's actually not listening to actually the voices that are speaking right now. So we made a commitment, for instance, going into the federal election to give Yiparinya Aboriginal School $8.3 million to build a boarding facility to house the students from town camps who were experiencing challenges at home and needed to feel safe so that they could actually get a great education in language so that they could actually further themselves and their future families. The Labor Party to this date has not seen fit to match that election commitment. They put $250 million on the table, and yet to meet what the actual school, what the actual community has said that they want for their students, for their future. So that shows me that the Labor Party is more interested in playing politics and seeking votes in capital cities from guilted Australians than actually fixing the problem.
Bridget McKenzie, thanks.
Always.
We'll talk to you soon.